Hi everyone, welcome back to the Avocado Toast Budget. Today we are doing a reaction video to some of Dave Ramsey's rants. I'm super excited about this. Over like 90% of you guys on Instagram said that you did want to see this when I asked you guys on a poll. So if you want to be part of deciding what videos I do in the future, make sure to follow me on Instagram. I will link that down below. Also, before we get into this, make sure that you hit that subscribe button and push that notification bell. That way you get notified every single time that I upload. And let's get into it.
See, what you've got to do, folks, when it comes to this FICO score stuff, and people run around mouthing about that stuff all the time. Oh, my God. They have done such a good job at FICO of making you believe that that is an actual indicator of your success. Your FICO score is not an indicator of your success. All you've done is successfully pay payments and interest to the bank. It's the only way you get a FICO score.
Okay. I'm stopping right there. Okay, so the first thing that he said was that FICO has done such a good job, it's not an indicator of your financial success, and I agree with that. I don't think that a credit score is an indicator of how well you are off with money, what you know about money, how good you are with your finances. But then he went on to say that the only way that you build up your FICO score is by paying payments and interest to the bank, which isn't necessarily true. You can get a secured card or you can get a credit card and build up your credit score without ever having to pay interest to anyone. There are 0% APR credit cards that you can get. There are 0% loans that you can get. You don't have to pay interest to someone to build up your FICO or your credit score. Okay, so let's move on.
I've got an 880. Well, I'm sorry. That probably cost you about $100,000. I mean, really. You can get, your aunt could die tomorrow and leave you $10 million. You know what that would do to your FICO score? Nothing. Because your FICO score is not an indicator of your net worth. Your boss could walk in this afternoon and raise your income to $1 million a year. You know what that would do to your FICO score? Nothing, because a FICO score is not an indicator of financial health. It's not an indicator of a big income. It's not an indicator of a big net worth.
Okay, so I get where he's coming from, and I agree with that. I agree that your credit score is not an indicator of your net worth. If you suddenly make more money or whatever, it's not necessarily going to change your credit score, and your credit score doesn't just reflect like everything about your finances. Like, I get that. I don't think anyone is claiming that your credit score is a reflection of your net worth, but that doesn't mean that just because it's not a reflection of your net worth or it's not a reflection of like your overall personal finance understanding, doesn't mean that it doesn't hold value and weight in the world that we live in.
It's not an indicator of a big investment portfolio. A FICO score is an indicator that you have borrowed money and paid it back a lot. And the higher your FICO score, the more you've done this over and over and over and over again.
Okay, so he's saying that a high FICO score means that you have borrowed money and paid it back a lot. But again, that's not necessarily true. There are secured credit cards that you can get, which you're not borrowing any money with a secured credit card. You give the bank or the institution a lump sum of money that acts as your balance for your card, and it is refundable. If you decide to close that account, you get that money back. You are not borrowing any money. You're just spending the money that you've already given the bank, and they're treating it like a credit card because they are secured, and then you also get to build up your credit. So this isn't necessarily true. Like, yes, obviously there are ways to build up your credit where you're paying interest or you're going into a lot of debt, but that's not the only way. And talking about a credit score as if like it is black and white, it is one way or the other, is just not giving his audience the full picture. And it's not giving them all of the information for them to make a decision for themselves and what works for them.
So this worshiping at the altar of FICO represents stupidity on your part. Stupid. Because you're using a false measure of success. It is not a measure of financial success, unless you consider paying lots of interest and payments to the bank success.
Okay, I already touched on that. You don't have to pay interest in order to build up your credit score. But again, I don't know who is like, I've never personally heard someone like use their credit score as like the pillar of all. Like, oh, I've got a good credit score, so I'm great with my finances. Like, I'm sure there are people out there who like misinterpret what a credit score is and like what it represents, but that's just like not a conversation I ever hear going on. Like, yeah, people can be excited if they get like a perfect credit score, if they're increasing their credit score, but that's usually because they understand the benefits that come with having a higher credit score. It's not because they're under this false illusion that having a high credit score means that you suddenly like have more money or are worth more, or your net worth is more. I've never heard anyone claim that. I don't know. If you've heard that, let me know down below, but I've literally never heard anyone claim that their credit score is like a reflection of their net worth. Anyway.
It's the only way that your FICO score develops. And case in point is, if you never borrow money, you'll never have a FICO score. Case in point is, if you pay off every single account and close all of them, and you have a net worth of tens of millions of dollars, and you make $1 bazillion a year, and your FICO score is 0. That's me, by the way. Okay? I have a 0 FICO score. I'm not borrowing money in 20 years. All the accounts are closed. They're not just 0 balanced. They're closed. I don't owe a soul and haven't in 20 years. And plus, over 20 years.
Okay, so he's saying you can close all of your accounts can be 0, and you can still be raking in a bunch of money just like him, and everything is good to go, and you don't have to worry about it. I hate this. I don't understand how he doesn't realize how privileged he sounds whenever he is saying this. The people who are listening to his show are not people who are in a position to be making millions of dollars if they just closed all of their accounts and paid off their debt. That is not a position the majority of people are in. Most people are never going to be as rich as he is. That is just the reality of it. And trying to form it as get rid of all of your credit and then start working on your net worth puts people in a really vulnerable situation, and it especially puts marginalized people in a vulnerable situation. Because if you were listening to this and this was the only personal finance advice that you were getting, and you were a single parent who had low income and high expenses, and you thought like, okay, like in order for me to be better with money, I need to close all of my credit accounts, and I need like, it doesn't matter what my credit score is because Dave Ramsey, who is worth all of this money, is telling me that it doesn't matter. So obviously in order to be better with money in my situation, this is what I need to be doing. That puts you in a really bad situation because chances are you don't have the cash on hand to be able to afford things like buying a car in full or paying for a house in full. People don't generally pay for houses in cash. And not to mention the fact that like that's a waste of your money. It doesn't matter. If that's something you want to do, then go ahead. But it puts people in a situation where they don't even have that option. If you don't have a credit score, you are either not going to be able to get approved for a car loan or a home loan or a loan if you suddenly need money for whatever reason it is, because life happens and things happen. If you do get approved and you have a lower credit score, or you have, in this case, what he's telling you, no credit score, and you somehow magically get approved, you are going to be paying so much money. So yeah, okay, in theory, if you're a millionaire who never needs to borrow money ever again, yeah, okay, fine, you don't need a credit score if you don't want to. You could still be taking advantage of debt, which most people do when they're making that much money. But if you don't want to, like, whatever, that's fine. That's totally up to you. But that's not his target audience. So I don't know why he's talking like this is realistic for the majority of people who he is listening to. This is not good advice for the average everyday person who is not going to be able to fund a house in full, who is probably not even going to be able to buy a reliable car in full. And if they can, then that's great, but there are still other reasons that you need your credit score outside of debt, outside of all of those things that can save you money and make sure that you are set for the future. And telling people, it doesn't matter, look at me, I have $1 million and I don't have a credit score, in my opinion, is really irresponsible. Kind of gross.
And so I don't have a FICO score. But here's how stupid our culture is. I can wander over here to the local apartment complex with some little 27-year-old apartment manager who reports to somebody. I live in Nashville, and they report to somebody in New York or Atlanta. And I'd fill out an application to rent an apartment. And because I don't have a FICO score, their thought train is so backward and stupid, they won't rent me an apartment. Now, I can write a check and buy the whole freaking complex, but I can't rent an apartment there. See, that's how stupid this is and how culturally backward it is. So, if your goal is to buy nice furniture for the bank lobby, then run your FICO score up. If your goal is to make sure that the windows are cleaned on that 100-story tower in the downtown skyline of your city, and that's a bank tower, if your goal is to make sure the window washers there get paid, then run your FICO score up.
I want to backtrack to what he said about renting, because I agree that's like, it should not be that your credit score is what gets you the ability to rent an apartment. I understand. I've been there. The apartment I am sitting in right now, we got because we had a high credit score. We would not have been able to get this apartment if we didn't have a good credit score. And do I agree with him that there should be other ways to approve you to rent someplace that isn't your credit score? Absolutely. I've never heard of someplace only taking your credit score into account like he's talking about, but every place is different. So yes, I agree that that is messed up. That is not how it should go. But that is how it goes in a lot of places right now. A lot of places, in order to get the best bang for your buck when it comes to a rental, apartment, a house to rent, whatever it is, you need a good or a decent credit score. So he's literally admitting that right here, but then he's telling people, oh, well, that's so backwards, so just don't fall into that. But that, again, puts people into a compromised situation. Do I think that this is an issue? Do I think that this is something that we need to talk about, that we need to start changing? Absolutely. But do I think that the way to change it is to tell people to fuck their credit score and then put themselves in a bad situation? No. What impact does that have on the landlords and these big rental conglomerates actually basing your rental approval off of your credit score? Nothing. If you have zero credit, but you have $1 million and they have chosen to only base it on your credit score, they're not going to feel like they lost. They'll just go find the next person who's waiting right behind you, who applied for that apartment, who has a higher credit score. You're not going to make systemic change by telling people to put themselves in compromised situations like that. I don't like it. I don't like it.
If your goal is to make sure the stock at General Motors or Ford or Lexus, that their stock price goes up because their profit has increased because they've funded more car loans and made interest on you, then run your FICO score up. But if your goal is to change your family tree and become very wealthy and outrageously generous, if your goal is to have tens of millions of dollars in order to make sure that your family generationally is shifted and that you have the ability to be unbelievably outrageously generous, if that's your goal, then screw FICO. Why are you giving them money? Why are you giving banks money to run up a false measure of success? It's not a proper measure of success. But all these dadgum broke financial geniuses that work with you or that'll be at Christmas dinner in your family, well, you need to protect your FICO score.
Building, I literally don't even know what to say. Building up your credit score and building up your net worth don't have to happen separately from each other. It's not black or white. His thinking and his advice is so black or white, and this is what frustrates me, is that he's making it seem like if you want to be a millionaire, if you want to even just set you and your family up for success, then you need to stop caring about your credit score. But that's just like objectively not true. There are tons of millionaires with perfect credit scores. There are tons of millionaires who use debt to their advantage. There are tons of millionaires who talk about the benefits of having a credit score. So trying to frame it like it's you pick one or the other is just A, not true, and B, again, dangerous. It's dangerous for the people who you are telling this to, because that might be a goal for some people, but that doesn't mean that it's attainable to everyone. This doesn't take into account the systemic issues that are in place to stop marginalized people from building wealth. So when you are talking to people as if it is one or the other, and if you want to build wealth, you need to say fuck it to all of this that could help you if you're in a compromised situation, is really disgusting, in my opinion. It's really gross. Do I wish that credit scores didn't matter? Yeah, absolutely. Do I think that it's stupid that we place someone's worthiness to get a loan or to rent or to get a small business loan or whatever on some numerical number? Absolutely. But would I give advice that would be A, so black and white, and B, would put especially marginalized people in a bad situation consciously? No. And I don't know if he does this consciously. He's a very smart guy, so I have a feeling he understands how systems of oppression work, unless he is just sitting so high in his ivory tower that he doesn't realize it. I have a feeling he knows what he's saying. I have a feeling he understands that this isn't black or white, and obviously this is my opinion. I'm not saying anything about him, and you can interpret it however you want, but as someone who is in the personal finance space, as someone who has heard so many people who just have no way of building wealth in the situation that they are in, telling them that the only way to wealth is by fucking their credit score is not, that's not responsible advice. That's not going to work for them, because chances are they are going to have situations where their credit score matters, and it's going to put them in a place where they're either paying a lot more money or they're not going to be able to access these things that they need. Housing is a need. Car to get to work is a need for a lot of people unless you have public transportation. So being able to afford a house or being able to rent is a necessity, and you're putting people in a situation where they might not be able to access that.
Oh my God. You're listening to stupid people who are broke, and they ran their FICO score up. They got no money, but they got a big score, which says they've been playing kissy face with the bank a lot. That's all that score says. Now, you cannot find any data to support anything except what I've said is the truth. Go study FICO. Look at the history of the organization. Look at the algorithm and the way it's built.
Okay, hi, Editing Lexa here. I am going to post some resources down below that show that you can build up your FICO score without having to pay interest or anything like that. So there are resources directly from FICO about how to build up your score without taking on interest. I'll link that down below.
Well, you can't get a house without a FICO score, says a moron. Of course you can get a house without a FICO score. There's two possible ways. One is you save up and pay cash for it, which people do, believe it or not.
Okay, his thing about the whole family dinner and thing, not only was that just like, I'm not going to comment on that because that was just horrendously privileged and weird. He's talking about like the two ways to be able to pay for a house. I understand people pay for houses in cash. I get that. Do the majority of Americans pay for houses in cash? No. Are the majority of Americans and your listeners ever going to be in a place where they could probably pay cash for a house? No. So I don't know why you're talking about this as if like doing anything else is like the stupid moronic way. It's, ugh. And I hear this all the time from people who try to defend him too. They sound exactly like him. They have this idea that if you're not doing what he says, you are moronic or stupid or broke or you don't understand what you're talking about. And that is a little culty in my opinion. Just my opinion. Just throwing that out. Just sprinkling that out there. Moving on.
And two is you get a mortgage company who actually knows how to write a mortgage without a FICO score. Not all of them do. A lot of them are so stupid they only know how to look at a number. Ooh, monkey can make this loan. Got the number. Ooh, ooh. We don't even know if he's got a job, but we'll give him a dadgum loan. But if you get a mortgage company that knows how to do manual underwriting, you can get the same mortgage that high FICO score boy can get. The exact same mortgage if you want to go get a mortgage. So quit believing the lies that are out there and stumbling around in your stupidity and wondering why you're broke. It's ridiculous. It's so aggravating. It's gone on for so long, too.
I don't really have much else to say that I haven't already said about this, other than just like, this is not how I would give advice. I hate this idea of this white, rich dude sitting on all of his privilege, telling people that they are stupid, broke, and moronic for not listening to him, or for understanding the value of a credit score, which is objectively important in today's society. If you are not rich, if you cannot fund everything in full, it is objectively important. Is it the end-all be-all of everything? Absolutely not. Am I saying that your worth should be reflective in some score that you have? No. If you have a low or a bad score or no credit score, are you less of a person? Are you less financially illiterate? Absolutely not. But does it have importance in our society? Yeah, unfortunately it does. So I think if this is the society that we're living in, can on one hand we work to dismantle that? Yes. I don't know what Dave is personally doing to dismantle this other than calling people who disagree with him moronic. If you know, please let me know. I would love to see what Dave is doing to actually dismantle this system. But also, on the other hand, we need to be educating people on just objective truths about personal finance and giving them the resources to be able to make that decision for themselves. If you decide a credit score isn't for you, that's not something you want to worry about, you want to focus all of your time and energy into being able to pay cash for things and build up wealth in some other way, great, good for you. Is awesome. But you also need to have the understanding and be educated on the fact that there is another way to build wealth that doesn't make you stupid. It doesn't mean that you're paying money to lenders or to the bank. It doesn't mean that you're making Ford rich. It means that you're making yourself rich. You're building wealth for yourself no matter how you do it. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all I have to say about that. I hope that you learned something cool. I hope that you got a different perspective and that you enjoyed this. I was going to do like my normal outro, but that kind of feels weird now that we just got done ranting and raving about Dave Ramsey. So if you enjoy videos like this, please give this video a thumbs up. That way I know that you guys like this and I will make more reaction videos in the future. Also, leave me a comment down below. Let me know kind of what you thought about this. Do you agree with Dave? Do you disagree? Are you kind of somewhere in the middle? I would love to be able to hear your guys' opinions and perspectives on this. And yeah, I will see you guys next time. Bye.